Today on JiK Labs, we're going to do some filtering with pivot tables. Let's get started. Now that you have Excel open and ready to go, you're going to see we are where we were last week, not because we're recording these videos back to back to back, it's just I wanted to wear the same shirt 3 weeks in a row. We've previously looked at the basic introduction as well as adding fields, updating your data sources, but today we want to look at filtering it a little bit more. There's a couple of ways you can filter your data with a pivot table. Well, if you're looking at the pivot table field, you can see there are filters built into this. So let's say we want to add salesperson filter. We're going to click and drag them down to filters and we're going to say, whoa, okay, well, why aren't they in rows anymore? Well, because now we're filtering by the salesperson, we can't show it that way. So what we can do is we can come in here, select everyone or unselect everyone and just say Alice, and this is Alice's sales month by month by month. I don't particularly care for this report. It is nice if you say Alice, you need to print the report for Alice, then it shows her sales on a monthly basis and the format is very nice. But if you're wanting to see a summary, it's much nicer to have the salesperson down below in the rows and select everyone with that auto filter. So right now we have all of our data set up, nested with Alice, Jack, everybody. It's Alice, then the month and their sales, and we have a subtotal here of each salesperson followed by the grand total. What if we want to filter by month? Well, likely so we can come up here, drag it down to filters, and we're going to see it disappear from months, and there we go. But we don't have any drop downs anymore, and we cannot expand or collapse because there's nothing to expand or collapse because now we're filtering by month. So we're going to come in here and say, let's just look at March and hit OK. There we see the data. But also, if you filter, you can select multiple items, just like any auto filter. And that's kind of what this is for the pivot table. And you just come in here and select these 4 months and we hit OK and it updates. Nice and easy. So what other ways can we sort this data? So let's go back to all items and let's just get rid of months as it is. So now we just have the total sales of the salespeople. So again, while clicked in your pivot table, go to Pivot Table Analyze in your ribbon screen, and we want to insert a slicer. So here we go, insert slicers. We're going to check months and we're going to hit OK. And now we're going to see we've got this new box. Wow, pretty neat. So right now, all of the data that could possibly be selected is selected. We can come in here and say February, March, April, well, May, if I can speak, March, so on and so forth. If you select this one, it's the same as allowing you to select multiple months. And as you can see, as we select and unselect, the totals update for us. Now let's say we want to go back to square one. We can hit the filter with an X. And that's going to clear everything for us and it will keep it update and refresh it for us. But you can see the dark blues are fields where there may be some data. These guys, nothing. See, we're clicking no data whatsoever. So again, clear the filters. The dark blues mean that there is data. The light blues mean that there is no data for those corresponding months. So that's one way. Again, so if you notice, while we're clicked on this slicer, we don't have our data. But if you click back in your pivot table, all of your pivot table fields show back up. Woo, I know. Let's go back to the analyze and let's insert the timeline. Only field we have that is a date is date. So we're going to check that guy and hit OK. And we're going to see a new kind of slider, but it's more for all the periods. Anytime you would like to delete a slicer, you can just highlight it and you'll see the dots around it and hit the delete key. And there you go. So now what does the timeline do for us? Well, we can see we got months and years, so on and so forth. But we want to go from October 2020. Well, you know what? We have no data there because we know there's no data there. So let's go back to 2022 and we'll select the first quarter. And we can see that data is populated. If you hover over this, you can see, just as it's called, it's the timeline. We can expand or decrease as we want and our numbers update. Keep in mind, the numbers are updating based off of the last refresh of your pivot table data from your data source. Just because they're updating when you filter them doesn't necessarily mean it's capturing all the data that may be in there. So I like to always just refresh the data when I'm starting or sporadically, just to make your life a little bit easier. It'd be a shame to analyze all this data and not be doing it with the most up-to-date information. So refresh as much or as little as you like. It's up to you. Maybe you just like doing stuff over and over again because it's not up to date. Also here we have a little drop down menu. We can do quarters. Right now it's on months, years, and days. So we can do years. And right now we're 2022 and that's all of our data. And as you can see, months, quarters, we want to look at first quarter and there we go. Of 2022, it's only showing us 2022 because we only have that data. And we can also look through second quarter and we have one invoice in third quarter and there you go. So let's just leave it at months and you can set that slider as you wish. Or if you don't want to use the timeline, just hit delete and you're back to just your pivot table. So what we want to do now is we're going to show you that you can use both. So we're going to go back to pivot table. We're going to insert a slicer and we're going to select salesperson. When we do that, it automatically selects everyone. And then we're going to go back to our pivot table, click, analyze, and we're going to add in timeline. I'm going to check the date. We're not going to show you that because we just did it. And you can move these boxes around however you like. One thing I would caution to is maybe not put your boxes directly underneath your data because if you add more fields, the boxes are going to be in the way. So again, we can say, let's show us Alice's sales for 2022. There we go. Or we can say first and second quarter, third quarter, no sales, fourth quarter, no sales, because we don't have that data. Again, first quarter, or if we want to come in here and add Larry, but wait a minute, I wanted to add Alice and Larry and Jack. Well, remember, we got to check this guy, the lines with the checks to give us multiple people to check. And there you go. We want to increase the timeline. We can do that. So these can be used individually in conjunction with each other, or you don't even have to use the slicers in the timeline as well because you can accomplish all this data via the pivot data fields in the filter. Thank you all for joining us today as we showed you some quick and easy ways to filter your data once you have it into a pivot table. Join us next week when I'm sure you're going to be sick and tired of talking about pivot tables, but we're going to look a little bit more at them then. Thank you all for watching and we'll see you all next week.